Yay! Hello, everybody. We are here with an original book tag based on the widely acclaimed novel Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. And we'll just introduce ourselves. I'm Leah Lindemann. My channel is Pen to Paper. And I'm the author of the Canadian Reminiscence series. Now you can go ahead, Leslie.
Which I have that series. I've read the second book. I need to read the first one.
Yeah.
So I'm Leslie with the Nerdy Narrative. I read all sorts of things, and Redeeming Love is one of my favorite books of all time. It's the book that I have reread the most over the years. So that one is just a special place in my heart.
Okay, how many times have you reread it?
I have no idea. I know that I usually read it once ever since it came out. For the most part, it's been read once a year. Now, ever since I started my BookTube channel, I think I've only read it twice. So,
okay.
I'm due for one.
Well, I was late to the game. I only read it in February. No, not even. It was after the movie came out, so it was May.
Fun fact, I was actually a bookseller at Lifeway Christian Bookstore when it was published.
No way.
And it was the hardest book to sell, but once I sold it, people came back and thanked me for recommending it to them.
Let me guess, because she's a prostitute.
No, absolutely not. It was the cover. It was the cover, because the majority, and I have it right here, it's in my stack. The majority of people that shopped in the Christian bookstore were men. They were youth ministers, pastors, seminary students, and it was the cover that turned them off. And I'm like, it's the retelling of the book of Hosea. Now, you read the Bible. Don't let this cover turn you off. And they did actually republish it under a couple of different cover variations because people would not buy the book because of the cover. And they were just missing out on an amazing story.
Wow. Okay, because I actually have that cover as well. And yeah, when I looked at it, I was like, it's okay. It's not that. You're right. The story is amazing.
So the best story about unconditional love I've ever read.
Same here. And it's very true to the obviously original material. And it made me cry, it made me laugh, it made me feel all sorts of feelings throughout the entire book. Like everything was perfect. It's very hard to find a book like that. That's perfection.
The author is she's a master at that. I've read just about everything she's written and the same emotions every time.
Yeah, because you mentioned that that other series. It's a trilogy. The Wind or Voice in the Wind.
The Mark of the Lion, I think, is the name of the trilogy. And the first one is A Voice in the Wind. And
that's right.
Man, your heart's going to get put through it for that one.
So I can't wait to read that. But until then, let's do the prompts. So just to let everyone know, even if you haven't read the book, you have no clue who these characters are, because all the prompts are based on characters, you can still do these prompts, even if you haven't read the book. So if you are a booktuber and you have a channel and you're looking for a new tag to do, feel free to just grab this one and run with it. Are you ready, Leslie, to introduce our first character, first prompt?
I'm ready.
All right.
So our first character is Angel. And Angel in the book Redeeming Love, she's a very beautiful woman. She's intelligent. She's confident. She's also independent and extremely sarcastic. She's literally been to hell and back. She went through a lot. Her father left when her mother got pregnant with Angel. And when her mother passed away, Angel was sold into prostitution. So the prompt for Angel is a book with a rough beginning and an ending that completely redeems it. And this book, I just can't stop talking about it. It's the first book in the Risen Kingdoms trilogy by Curtis Craddock, An Alchemy of Mask and Mirrors. I was going to DNF this book at chapter 1 if it
Ooh.
Well, at the end of, I was going to give it to the end of chapter 1. It's probably the fastest I would have ever DNF'd a book in my entire life. I was just being hit with all of this terminology I didn't understand. It's very French influenced, and I thought, I'm not going to like this book. At the end of chapter 1, completely redeemed it, and it's now one of my favorite books of all time. Absolutely loved it.
Oh
So,
man,
yeah.
I gotta get that book now. I
Oh,
love
it's so
all of
good.
your crazy about. They're always good.
Yep.
Okay, so mine, I don't have paperback, but it is called From the Ashes by Jessie Thistle, that I read earlier this year. And not so much that I had a hard time going through it, but it was actually based on Jessie Thistle's life. And he's Métis, and he grew up impoverished and homeless, and how he kind of goes from his journey from being homeless, going through kind of similar to Angel's journey. She goes through a very, very difficult childhood and becoming an adult, and so does he. But in the end, he's come out of those ashes into a beautiful life that he has now made for himself, through the kindness of other people, and also just finally realizing that he needed to be determined to actually get out of his situation. So that's the book I chose for this prompt. All right, so the next one is Michael, and it's a book that made you a believer, and a believer in whatever you pick. So Michael is one of the other main characters in Redeeming Love. He is told by God to marry this woman that he sees across the road, and it turns out to be Angel / Sarah. And what entails is this pursuit of his to love a woman that doesn't necessarily need, or not need, but want that love. And yet the patience and unconditional love that he executes through his character and his actions is incredible, and is really sure of how God loves unconditionally all of his children as well. So the prompt is a book that made you a believer. I picked High Performance Habits by Brendan Burchard. It's a nonfiction book. Actually, it was probably one of the first nonfiction books I picked up in years. I don't really go toward nonfiction, but it really struck me, the content material. And I never read self-help, or at least before this book. I just kind of just put help to the side. I don't know, just seemed wishy-washy or just kind of a gimmick. But when I read this book, Brendan Burchard has a way of just saying it as it is, but being encouraging and uplifting, and really helping the reader have vision for their own lives. And that's what I loved about it. So not so much a believer in self-help. I guess the connotation comes with self-help, but just a believer in having a better life and choosing a better way of living. So that's the book I chose.
So it's kind of funny because the one I chose is kind of along the same vein. I chose Viktor E. Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, and this book is amazing. I mean, honestly, you just want to open it up to page 1, take your highlighter, and you just highlight it all the way through to the end of the book. But it is a nonfiction, and it is about his time spent in the concentration camp and how he believed that he who has a why can withstand almost any how. And how he survived being in this camp is he kept reminding himself about his wife and his child, and that life is a quest more for meaning than anything. And what made me a believer and what had me get behind a lot of what he said in this book is that suffering in and of itself, it was meaningless. It was how we responded to that suffering that gave it meaning. And it was just, it's so inspirational. I mean, my gosh, I think it was written back in 1964.
Amazing.
And it has so much value still today. Like, this is another book that really deserves to be read every year. Just start out January 1st, reread this book and you're just going to be ready to go for the year.
Awesome. Actually, that book, Brenda Burchard talks a lot about too, and Viktor Frankl's experiences that he had in the concentration camp. So it's kind of interesting how it's all intertwined.
That is funny.
That is. All right. Our next prompt.
Johnathan Axle. So Johnathan, I'm going to do my best to keep this non-spoiler because it's a character you really should meet organically. But Johnathan Axle he's a very wealthy and respected banker. He has a really solid Christian family, and he's just very kind, just a very upstanding person, just inspiring to be around and just very kind. So the prompt that goes with Johnathan is a book that saved you in the nick of time. So I chose a science fiction novel called Stringers by Chris Panettiere. And how this book saved me is I had started this book right about the time my husband had his accident where he broke his hip. And I was very upset. He was in the hospital for a couple of days and I couldn't be with him because of COVID. And I was just worried about his accident. And I read this book and because I was here by myself. And it's so funny. I just laughed and like I couldn't help but laugh. I was so worried about my husband, but this book just had me laughing and it just gave me a much more lighthearted feeling and just refreshed me and just had me, okay, I'm in a much better mind frame now. I can be encouraging to my husband when we talk on the phone. This book is just, it's hilarious. Just think about found family, a partial robot bounty hunter that's very full of sass. It's like a Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, but in outer space. It's absolutely one of the most delightful reads I've had all year. Definitely the one that's made me laugh out loud the most.
Okay, I gotta read that because I haven't read any funny science fiction at all. It's always very serious, world building.
Don't skip the footnotes. The footnotes are everything. The main character, his brain likes to talk back to him, and it kind of does it in the footnotes. It's hilarious.
That is so awesome. Well, I'm definitely going to check that out. My book that I chose from this prompt is kind of a really odd one that I chose, but I don't know, just felt very right. And it's Too Loud a Solitude by Bohumil Hrabal. I don't know if I'm saying this correctly. It's a Czech writer. And I read it earlier on this year with, hey, it's Jay. And it's interesting. He really didn't care for it, but because it's so different from a regular fiction book, like it really feels like you're reading someone's journal or diary. And it's about this guy who's a garbage compactor and he's just living his life and having all these different experiences. And you really get to know his observations, but it just felt like the right palate cleanser from what I was reading before, because before that book, all the books that I had read, I guess maybe they all seemed to have the same similar tone. And I was just needing something new. And I didn't realize that I needed it until after I read this book. Because I think if I hadn't read this book, I probably would have been in a deeper slump than I was starting to feel already. So it saved me from a book slump.
Yeah, that's how I felt about this one. This one I call a slump cure. Like this is on my short list of books. Like the only other book that I have on it is The Martian, because that one is also hilarious.
Yeah.
Like anytime which I haven't been in a slump in a long time because I read so many different genres and I alternate them. So I don't usually get slumpy because I'm excited about something I'm reading. So, but I call that one a slump buster for sure.
Okay. Well, there you go. That was my slump buster. I like that term. Great term. All right. Our next prompt is Duke. Now, Duke, the character Duke, so already Leslie mentioned that Angel went through a horrible childhood. She was sold off into prostitution, and Duke was her first handler. And it's just really, yeah, he seems, when she first meets him, he's very charming, very worldly. He has this air about him. But then the evil comes out, that monster comes out, and you read about all the disgusting ways that he made her life that living hell. So that's who Duke is. So the prompt is a seemingly charming book that fell flat. For me, I picked Mr. Dickens and His Carol. I buddy read this with Linda from Linda's World of Books last fall. So it was weird that we didn't even read it in winter, whatever. About his Christmas Carol, writing the Christmas Carol. I guess I just had such high hopes for it. It did seem like a charming, Old English because it's Charles Dickens' story. And instead, I was so disappointed with the character. And the way that the story was crafted really didn't live up to my expectations. So it really fell flat. But I think the thing that bothered me from his character the most was him having this dalliance with this woman and not committing to his family and his wife during Christmas of all seasons. I don't know. It just really bugged me. And then it kind of tried to justify it, and then it didn't. And it was a little bit messy. That's my pick.
Yep. My pick is funny because you guessed it. This was my fairy tale retelling sort for this prompt. Yes. So Straight On Till Morning by Liz Braswell. And it's part of Disney's Twisted Tales series. So this is Peter Pan, and it's a little bit of a darker retelling because it's what if Wendy came to Neverland with Captain Hook instead? And I thought, this is going to be great. But the problem, I think, might have been for 40 some odd years, I have known the Peter Pan story one way. Mm-hmm. And then I'm trying to read it changed. And I think my Disney loving heart was revolting against it.
Oh no.
It didn't work for me. I'm going to try some of the other Twisted Tales by different authors and see, because a lot of other folks that I've talked to that have read a bunch of these haven't meshed with this particular author. So I'm going to try some of the others, but yeah, that one just, I'm betting it's a little bit of both. Maybe a little bit of the author's writing style and some of the choices that she made to change the tale, but probably more so I'm old enough that I'm stuck in my ways, get off my lawn type. Don't change my fairy tales. So maybe I'm just not a retelling kind of gal.
Yeah,
maybe the Mikey of BookTube has found something she doesn't like.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Did you like or did you see the movie Maleficent?
Yes.
Okay, did you like it? See, that I thought was amazing retelling. So well done. Yeah, so no.
I like Angelina Jolie. I thought she looked the part perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people who didn't like it, it's not that they had a problem with what they did with the story. They just didn't want to like Maleficent. They didn't want to feel empathy for her. So
same.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. But I love Maleficent. I'm a villains loving girl too. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I never really liked Maleficent. And at the end of the movie, I was like, wow, they did such a great job. I felt like I had to hate her, but you really don't at the end. So they're a little sidetrack on great retelling. Right. So you go ahead and do the next one.
So our next character that our prompt is based on is Magowan. And this guy, Duke is bad. Magowan is right there with him. Magowan is technically a bodyguard that works for Duchess, which runs a brothel that Angel works in for a time. Magowan makes sure to keep the girls in line, as well as the patrons of the brothel. That's all I'm going to tell you about him, because the rest will be completely spoilers. But his prompt is a favorite censored book. And I decided to choose one that actually got banned here locally in Florida because of the book's explicit sexual scenes, violence, and obscene language. That's Kurt Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse-Five. I love this book. I was talking about it today with someone in another bookish Discord, and it's unlike anything Kurt Vonnegut has ever written. His other stuff is much better prose-wise, but the meaning behind this book, and I think everybody should read it. I don't think it should be banned anywhere. I think this is an excellent viewpoint on war, and Kurt nailed it in my opinion. He made it realistic. It's not everybody, a lot of times they think war back in these days, they see the poster of Uncle Sam wants you and it's all patriotic and rainbows. That is not the case at all. And that's another one that I want to reread at least once a year.
That's
I'm a serial
awesome.
rereader. That's why I like to own books, because if I love it, I'm going to read it over and over and over again. And the problem is I usually love most everything that I read. So, yeah. What did you pick?
Actually, Jay just reminded me. It's on our so we're doing a little show on the same page with Leah and Jay, and it's on our list. So maybe when we read it, you can reread it with us if you want. You are totally invited.
Absolutely. Yes.
So Jay, I just did executive decision here, okay?
Y'all just let me know when you have it scheduled at least a month in advance so I can make sure and stick it on there.
Definitely. So yeah, it's I guess that's a whole other discussion, banned books. But for my favorite censored book is going to be To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. I
haven't read that
one many years ago, and I just loved it. I guess it's banned. They have the N word in there. I don't even know why it's banned. It's such a great story.
I mean, most of Stephen King's old stuff has the N word in there, and they're not banned.
Exactly. And the two kid characters, they're all the characters are so lovable, and it's such a great piece of that time period that I think everyone needs to read to understand. Like it's about racism, it's about class, clashing. So it's such a great classic book. It's definitely one of my favorites, anyways.
I'll have to read that one.
Did you read it?
I will have to read that one.
But you haven't read it?
I haven't read it. I think I did it in high school. I don't remember it. It seems like I was supposed to.
Okay.
But I have a ton of banned books, and the majority of them, when she mentioned racism, the majority of them, that's what it's about. And I'm pretty sure they're saying, oh, it's because of obsessive language. No, it's not. We know what y'all are doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's crazy. Okay, next prompt. We have Duchess. So you already mentioned her a little bit. She runs the brothel that Angel's a part of. So there you go. That's the character. And it's basically a book you had to work through with barely a reward at the end. That's kind of hinting at a spoiler with that character, so I won't say anymore. I chose not a book, but a whole series. It was the Uglies series by Scott. I think it's Scott Westerfield. And I wanted to like it. It's a dystopian series where basically you have people who are ugly who haven't had their bodies changed perfectly, and then you have the pretties. So like once you're 16,
so the Kardashians.
Yeah, kind of. You go from an ugly to a pretty, and of course the main character, she gets out of it, and instead she finds all these other uglies living in the woods somewhere, and so I liked the premise. I wanted to like it, and I worked through every book. There's 4 books. Okay, so the first 3 are a trilogy, and they sometimes like just snap on the last one just to say they put an extra book, right? And the fourth one was the most awful. I still worked through it, and I was not satisfied at all. It was not good. So steer clear of the ugly series, guys. You feel like you might be able to get something out of it, but you don't get anything.
Well, my pick is by an author. There's a series actually it's in the same universe as this book that I love. But I went to the beginning of that series because I was like, all right, well, let's go to the beginning since I read the end first. But I'm from Mississippi. We do everything backwards. And I read it. And it was Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. And it took me 3 months to read this book. And that's a long time for me. I'm somebody that reads a lot of books a month. And it was so boring. And it turned me off so badly from Brandon Sanderson. It was over a year before I read anything else by him. I've just started reading him again. The series, the trilogy that comes after Elantris called Mistborn. But this book, it's his debut. And now I'm somebody that reads a lot of self-pub, and I do understand that sometimes debuts are a little shaky, and I'm forgiving. And I read his best stuff first, so I kind of screwed up. But if you did not start with Elantris with Brandon Sanderson, don't go back to the beginning. Just go to Mistborn. Just go to Mistborn. You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Because I actually want to try Brandon Sanderson at some point.
But he's amazing, but
but
that book is not.
He seems a little intimidating. He really does.
His books seem large, and they are, but they read so quickly. He has what I call hand-holding prose. It's just very easy to follow. What he shines at are moments, character moments of insane, unforgettable inspiration that will have you just wanting to go out and be a better person and save the world. Amazing. So that's where he shines.
That's amazing. So if anybody wants inspirational fiction, read Brandon Sanderson. Okay, next prompt. Go ahead.
Miriam. All right. So Miriam is one of the most lovable characters you're going to meet in Redeeming Love. She is the oldest child of the Altman family, and this is a family who Michael invites into his home, or his and Angel's home, and they become great friends. Miriam is just the pure definition of what a kind and understanding heart is. Just acceptance. That's just one word I would associate with Miriam. And truly, I can't say that part because it would be a spoiler. So her prompt is a book containing unquestionable friendship and the absolute best friendship I have ever read in my entire life. My favorite. That's going to be the quartet of Stephen King's The Dark Tower series. I chose The Wastelands because this is the first book where the quartet really forms solidly. I won't say any more than that, but it is a group of characters. They are just the most purest form of found family. I love these people with all of my heart. I love this series with all of my heart. And there is no better found family than this series right here. If you have not read The Dark Tower and you're a fantasy lover, I mean, I would say it's like a fantasy series with a lot of horror elements and even some sci-fi elements thrown in, but
well, I read the first one. So, wait, what book is that? Is that book number 4?
This is the third book because The Gunslinger is a bit of a prequel to the series. And the second book of the series is I can't it kind of forms, but here's where everybody's like together and we're cooking with bacon grease.
Mm, okay, so I have to read. I have to get back into the series for sure.
It's so good.
Yeah. Okay, my pick for this is actually Canadian classic, Anne of Green Gables by Lucy Maud and Montgomery. The friendship between Anne and Diane is just so innocent, pure. They're there for each other. They're through the ups and the downs. It's just such a beautiful friendship that I am
Innocent.
always looking back on. Yeah, and just like, oh, it warms your heart. That's the kind of friendship it is.
Yep. Oh man.
Have you read those?
Yes, but it has been such a long time ago. I
Yeah.
love that story. I think I is are there more than two? I think I only had the first two.
There's there's at least four,
Mhm.
maybe five, and then there's like series branching off from that one. So I know I read one, two, three. I don't think I read four, and if there's a fifth one, number five. But yeah, it's pretty consistent with their friendship for sure. All right, next prompt is Paul. So Paul is Michael's or his brother-in-law. I keep mixing that up.
It's his
It's
brother-in-law,
Do you remember?
former
It's his
former
brother-in-law. That's
brother-in-law.
right. Oh, it's because he married Michael's sister. So Paul has just come back from his time in the gold fields, and he's also nursing a hurting heart because his wife died, which is Michael's sister. And him and Angel just really butt heads. He almost, I would say, almost hates her when he first meets
Mhm.
her because of what
Mhm.
he thinks she's doing to his brother-in-law. And he cares for his brother-in-law. And there's just a lot of assumptions, and then how he treats her because of those assumptions. It's a really, really rocky road, but kind of like Angel's story, it's very much redeemed at the end. There's a joining together of forgiveness and acceptance.
But
But I'm
Paul
not
to
going to go
me
into
represented the world to me.
exactly.
Judgment.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's true. Yeah. So that prompt is a book that turned out amazing or great despite judging it by its cover. Yeah, that one. Don't judge it by its cover.
Do not. Do not.
I should have just used that book. But the book I did choose is called The Automobile Club of Egypt. This was such a random pickup. I went to my library one day and I just saw it on the shelves. I liked the font of the title because I only saw the spine.
I would
I
totally do
was
that.
like, this sounds really interesting and like really random at the same time. I picked it up and there really wasn't that much to the cover. It was basically like sandstone type of color with one little character in the front. But I was thinking, you know what, I'm going to pick it up, whatever. That beginning of that book was one of the best beginnings I've ever read in a book. And it was
Wow.
basically this writer, he's gone away for a writer's retreat. I guess maybe that's why it's calling to
Oh,
me
I
the writer within
love,
me.
love when the main character is a writer. It's my
Yeah,
favorites.
and he's at this writer's retreat, and there's no one else around in these cabins or chalets wherever he is. And all of a sudden, this man and this woman come up to the door, and he lets them in, and he speaks with them. And the more that he's speaking with them, they actually turn out to be his characters. And they tell him, "Can we tell you what our story is actually like instead of what you have written for us?" And then that's how it starts off. I was so floored by that
Like,
beginning. It was the best
they
beginning
just come
ever.
in, they sit down, they're like, all right, real talk here.
Exactly.
You're misrepresenting us, okay? We need to get this ironed out. That's funny.
That's right. Yeah. And then the rest of the book, it was great. Like it was a view into a different culture because it was, I believe, I don't know if it was, I think it might have been Pakistan. Um, a little bit of Pakistan, then some Egypt. It was just kind of a mix and just a great viewpoint of culture and what it's like for families, how they live, and how kids leave their homes and what their lives are like there. So I really, really did enjoy it overall.
Oh, I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah,
Well, our
me too.
next prompt and our last prompt
Oh, wait.
is based.
You got to do yours.
Oh, Redeeming Love. Y'all need to read this book. I
Okay.
know it
Calm down.
has a hokey cover, but it is the most beautiful story. And, yes, it is a retelling of the biblical book of Hosea. Even if you're not into Christianity, it's still a book about unconditional love. That is the core theme of this story. And it is just it's gonna do things for you. It's gonna do things for you. Okay. Now we'll get to the last prompt. So if you have ever in your life had one person that you believed was put in the right place at the right time that you needed them, that is who our last character, Virgil Harper, was for Angel. He owned a cafe. He was desperately in need of a cook. Angel was on the run. If you're familiar with the story of Hosea, then it's one of the many times that, like Gomer, Angel has hit the road. And she needs a job. Virgil needs a cook. He hires her. He looks after her. She's got a safe haven. Again, another character who's just full of faith and kindness. And the prompt we have for him, is a favorite book of new beginnings. And I went a little bit twisty with this one. I chose Shauna Maguire's Middle Game. It's about a set of twins, Roger and Dodger. Don't even look crazy about their names. You just read the first few pages. The names get explained, and then you're like, okay, that's cool. This is a sci-fi book. It's also got some horror elements. It's one of my favorite books of all time. It's one that is so much better on the reread when you understand everything that's happening. Knowing the ending and going back and reading the beginning is kind of like after you finish The Dark Tower and you go back and read The Gunslinger and you realize what a brilliant piece of literary work it is. This one, the twins, it's kind of about quantum entanglement. They're separated at birth. They don't know that they're twins. They can communicate with each other in their minds. And there are things that happen that cause them to separate numerous times as they're growing up. And so there's also some other timey-wimey stuff. So there are a lot of new beginnings in this book. It's so good. It's so good. This is another favorite book. I've read this one. I've read this one more times. I haven't even read the sequel yet because I just keep rereading this one.
When did the sequel come out?
Came out earlier this year. March?
Oh, okay.
April? I have it. I just reread Middle Game and then I stopped. I just basked in the glory and the beauty of the story and these two characters. I've always been fascinated with twin stories. I always wanted to be a twin.
Aww.
I thought they had magic.
Yeah. That's very cool. So I picked actually just a very recent read that I had to read as part of my local book club. And it's called Music of the Bees by Eileen Singh. Goodness, I can't remember her last name. But it actually it actually fulfills the prompt of making me a believer in bees and the magic of bees, because it's this beekeeper. She's in her 50s and her husband died 5 years ago. And she's just kind of going through life, but bees are reason for living. And she wants to increase her hive from 25 to 50 and then 50 to 100. She really wants to make this like lifestyle, her business. Mm-hmm. And one night she's going home, she's just got a new batch of bees, and she almost hits a young guy. He's a young teen, or older teen, in a wheelchair on the side of the road, and she almost hits him and she makes him fall over, and she's so sorry. She picks him up, brings him home, but turns out he's a young man that's also in desperate need of a new beginning because he just had this accident a year ago, and that's why he's a paraplegic. And so she invites him to help her with the bees, and she knows that he can't be the handyman that she's looking for. She's wanting someone to apply for the job of, taking care of the her yard and all that. So she kind of invites him to stay with her, and he does. And his life is transformed by literal music of the bees. It's just such a beautiful. The author had a beautiful way of writing about bees. Like, I'm in love with them.
Okay, then you need to read The Secret Life of Bees. That book is so good.
Yes, I did
It is
hear of that one
so
too.
good.
And then also on top of that young man that she helps, there's another young man that comes into her life, and they're just this interesting trio of two young men and this older woman, and they just help each other out find happiness and purpose again in their lives. That's the one I picked for a favorite book of New Beginnings. And that's the end of the prompts.
Yay! I can't believe we didn't pick any of the same books. That's funny.
It's great. Now people have a mix of different ones that they can go to and really check out, or in the case of some, not check out, like ones with no reward at the end. Stay away.
Yeah, there's a couple. Stay away from those.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's been awesome.
These were some great prompts, and very, like Leah mentioned at the beginning, you don't have to read the book to do the prompts, but the prompts match their characters so well. You did a great job. Leah made up all the prompts. all that she did. She's the creative one. I'm just the, hey, yeah, I'll help. I'll pick some books out.
You did an amazing job. You're the one that's got the book genius. So
I'm just a nerd that likes to read more than anything else.
Exactly. So that's incredibly important as well. So we are going to tag some people now. As we said, you don't need to read the book, and we're kind of picking you if we kind of know you like to do tags. So Leslie, want to take it away?
I would like to tag The Literary Apothecary. I know that Kate has read this book because I talked her into it and she loved it. I also would like to tag A Beautiful Minutia. If she has not read this book, I think she would absolutely love this book. I know she would love this tag and have wonderful answers. And I would also stick Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space. I know that we've talked about this book before, and I know she expressed interest in reading it. Again, I think she would have some great recommendations and books for those prompts as well. And that's all I could think of.
Actually, I thought of 3 as well. So I'm thinking Emily at Novell Novels. I know that this is, she enjoys romance. Yeah, she enjoys, this is also a romance book. There is romance. There's other things too, but so I think she'll enjoy this. So Emily, if you want to read the book, that's awesome. If not, you can just do the prompts too. I don't know if you've read this book or not. Maybe you have. And then of course, I have to tag my buddy Jay. I know you're not going to read the book.
No, it's not his style. It's
Definitely not. But you can still do the prompts.
I can't wait to see what he does with these prompts.
Exactly. You have to do it. Okay.
Jay is the one where you do a tag and you tag him by writing on the bathroom stall for a good tag call. The World According to Jay.
And this is his
He's like, wait a minute, they're talking about me. I better pay attention.
Whatever. So Jay, they're on the description in the video. And if you can't find it for whatever reason, I'll send them your way and you're just going to have to do it. All right. And my third one, because I know he loves romance so much, wink, wink, Brad Proctor. He's always joking about this. I'm sorry. He put himself in this basket.
It's a great book. I might would. Brad's been known to be up for a challenge. You can't ever really tell about what he's gonna do.
It is a Western. Like, he might even pick it up. Who knows?
Yep. I know he likes the Westerns.
Yeah. Hey, Kelly. How are you? Thanks for stopping by. Just saying, we just tagged 3 people each. And if you like to do book tags, you can totally do this without having read a book. So just read the prompts and pick a book that goes with the prompts. But you can have fun with that. And that's it. We've done the prompts. We've tagged people. I hope all of you have enjoyed this. I have so much with you, Leslie. This has been fun.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry it was storming like crazy earlier. It seems to have finally passed over us now. So
yeah, and totally didn't even notice anything. So
yeah, I had to lock the dogs out so they didn't.
Before we leave, do you have any coming up or lives coming up that you want people to check out on your channel?
I don't believe so. The only live that I can think of is at the end of the month for the Wine and Crime book club that I host. It's a thriller book club. We are going to be reading Razorblade Tears this month. So if you want to join us, definitely hop on over to the Discord. We talk about it as we read it in Discord, and then we talk about it in the live show at the end of the month. But I believe that's the only thing I have going on this month. I have a lot of books that I want to read, and my in-laws are coming in a couple more days, so I'll be spending some time with them. So I won't be around social media much.
No. Well, actually, I put up, so if everybody wants to check out Leslie's channel, that's also in the description, and also Discord and where to connect with her. That's all there. Let's see. Great book club pick.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it.
And yeah, I don't really have any lives coming up other than eventually Jay and I will go live when we discuss The Catcher in the Rye, which I also saw was on the censored book list.
Yep.
After reading it, I could see why.
Yeah.
It was interesting to say the least at some point, but Jay is having an extremely hard time getting through it. I guess it's making him feel sleepy or something. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when that happens because it's all based on Jay now. So, Jay.
Poor Jay. Holding everybody up.
No, I know there's been other factors too. It has been a rough summer. And I know you'll finish it. I have faith in you that you'll do it. So, and then that will be our next live, but not too sure on a date for that. All right, guys, have an amazing night. Thanks again for coming by to watch the premiere of Redeeming Love, the original book tag. And check out Leslie, the Nerdy Narratives YouTube channel. And I'm Pen to Paper. And we're heading out.
Bye.
Bye.